what's up everybody, and welcome to this episode of ToneSetterTV. Stay tuned with me, Christopher not Chris, as we literally get into somebody's business.
What's up everybody, Don Hopkins of the Kedo Co, and right now we're shooting Lawana Chambers Lawson for Entrepreneur Magazine and Oprah Magazine. So just take a look. I don't know what to say.
What's going on everybody, it's your boy Christopher not Chris, here for another episode of ToneSetterTV. Today we're joined by Mr. Don Hopkins, formerly of Don Hopkins Photography, now of the Kedo Company. Probably, you know what I'm saying, I've known this dude for a long time, and just one of the creative geniuses we have here, you know, in the city and in our world, you know what I'm saying. So definitely want to shout out to Don and thank you for coming today.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it, man. It's good to be here.
Hey man, so I mean, let's get it going, man. You know, like I said, Kedo Company. That's your company. You know, what do you guys do? You know, and what was the reason that you decided to start off with this venture?
So, kind of like you said, man, I've been doing photography for a little while now, and it was just photography alone. But I was noticing that the market wanted more. You know, the market wanted photography, but then they also wanted video. And when I started, it was either or. You could be great at one. I mean, and there's still people that do one or the other and is very successful. But the market, the age of social media, like everything is, I want photography and I want video. And I was like, man, I have the eye for this stuff, but I didn't know if I wanted to do it. Well, I met my partner, Kedo Co. Shout out to my boy, Kevin. We met some years back, and he was like, dude, I love your photography. And at first I didn't know what he did or who he was, and then I realized he did, you know, a little photography and he did video also. And I was like, man, this stuff is kind of cool, but you know, I didn't pay it any other attention. And so he came to me and like kind of threw out an option, like, hey man, we should partner and do some stuff together. And I was like, man, you know, you might can do that. So we played with the idea a little bit, played with some creative ideas and how we could structure the business and how we could promote it and how we could gain more clientele by adding, you know, the value of being able to produce, you know, not just photography but video and quality on both ends. And so when we started doing that, man, things just started taking off. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we got started.
Nice. And I like what you talked about as far as, you know what I'm saying, you got to take a look at the value, you know what I mean? Because that's, you know, that's something I'm working on, you know, understanding the value of what I can do and, you know, adding pieces and adding people. Right. And then even with the photography versus videography thing, because I jumped in the game thinking, you know, shoot some pictures. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's... Which
is how we all start.
You know, so that's how... That was my thought process, and then as soon as I started shooting pictures, everybody was like, "Hey, can you do videos?" Right. That's how it happened. And I'm like, I can. I mean, technically, we'll figure it out in a few minutes.
I'll let you know.
and you know, so I definitely understand that. So I can appreciate, you know, that piece of it. You know, so you guys partnered up. You know, you kind of explained why that, but you know, what made you, what got you into photography?
So, man, photography really runs real deep. So my dad, since I was literally 1 day old, and this is like extremely specific to 1 day old, my dad started taking pictures, not just of me, he had been taking pictures, but he had been documenting our life since we were children. And I didn't realize, of course, as a kid, how much of an impact that would have on me. But it was not until, you know, a couple years ago, you know, well, before I really started shooting photography, that I went in my dad's closet and pulled out the old family photo album that had all the pictures. I mean, pictures of me sleep, pictures of me eating, pictures of me in my underwear, pictures of me on the toilet, like all the pictures. And I remember how I felt when I saw them. I remember thinking like, man, I remember this. Or even if I didn't remember it, it was something that was like enlightening because I didn't remember. And I was like, wow, I didn't even, you know, it was just all of these emotions and all of this, these feelings just came rushing, and it was a good feeling. It was like, man, like it was like my dad was sowing seeds into us, you know what I mean? And I don't even know if he knew that, you know what I mean? And so when that happened, it kind of fueled like something in me that I wasn't really aware of. And so when I was 16, I had some friends that bought me a Kodak film camera. I don't even know why they did that. I don't know if I showed interest in photography, because I don't remember showing an interest in photography. But they bought me a film camera for my birthday when I turned 16, and I used that thing every day, as much as I could, because it was a film camera, so I had to buy a film, so you only had a couple of shots, and then that was it. And so I believe that's kind of where my roots started, was really with my dad sowing those seeds of memories, capturing memories in me. And then 16 years old, friends bought me a camera and allowed me to, try out, capturing moments, right? And those are the organic moments, right? Because you're not worried about lighting, you're not worried about composition, you're not worried about all that stuff. You're just like, man, hey, here's a cool moment. Let's capture this moment, right? And then 2006, a friend of mine by the name of Steve Collins, a close friend of mine, needed someone to photograph an event. So we had some friends that were doing a album release concert. And there was no one to take pictures, and he was like, man, I need somebody to take pictures. Can you take pictures? I was like, bro, I'm not a photographer. Like, why me? He's like, bro, I don't have nobody else. And he's like, you got an eye for this kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't do it, so how do I have an eye for it? And so, but I was like, all right, I'll do it, I said, but I don't have a camera. He's like, man, you can use mine. It was a little Sony point and shoot camera. And I wasn't thinking, oh man, this ain't a professional camera. I was just thinking like, okay, cool, I have a camera. And honestly, man, I went to that concert, and I was trying to capture moments, right? What I did when I was 16, what my dad did my whole life is capture moments, and that's all I was thinking about. And I was trying to be creative with it. I remember not knowing why I was thinking, but I was like, man, let me get on a chair and stand up in the corner and put the camera up so I can do a down shot. I don't even know why I thought that, but I just thought it might look cool. So I did it, and so when I gave him the photos, he's like, dude, these are amazing. He's like, you should be a photographer. And I was like, oh, I'll look into it. And honestly, man, that's when I really started getting after it. And that was in 2006. So,
man. So, I mean, one thing that I heard a lot of that you didn't necessarily say, but you were kind of leading towards it, was purpose. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you did say your dad, you didn't know if your dad was doing that on purpose. Mm-hmm. But right. It turned into your purpose. You know what I mean? So, and I said at the beginning, I've always known you as a creative dude, because before photography, it was the music. Yeah. And
it still is. And a lot of people don't even know that I still, do music on a regular basis, and like I play keys. Here's what I say, man. It's weird when you think about it at first, but it really makes sense to me, at least. I don't feel like I'm gifted at photography or video. Like, and a lot of people are like, dude, are you correct? You have great stuff. But what I'm not saying that I'm not good at those things. I'm just feeling like I'm more gifted in creativity. Anything that requires me to use my imagination, I could be good at, right? I could be good at, basket weaving if I wanted to do it, because I have the ability to have vision. I know how to think through an idea. I know how to use my childlike imagination. You know what I mean? Because for me, I'm 36, but my imagination is like a child, and I'll keep it there. I won't try to mature my thoughts, because in the childlike thoughts is the freedom to do anything. You know what I mean? It's almost like Peter Pan. Yeah. It's like you couldn't go to Neverland unless you were a child, but if you grew up, you couldn't go back, right? And so it's like that in my mind. Like, I feel like if I start trying to, you need to think like an adult, and how can we appropriately make it, and you try to mature it, you lose all of the freedom to be creative. But once you have a very creative thought, even in its infancy, in its real, organic, small infancy stage, you can then say, okay, once we have this idea, let's firm it up. Let's add some more pieces to it that will make it, appealing to our adult audiences, right? But I mean, if you think about it, it was grown men who came up with Pixar and Toy Story and all of these other, movies and whatever else that really appeals to us adults too. I went to go watch Toy Story 4. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not just because of my kids, but because I wanted to see it too. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. But if they try to say no, this is just for children. No, Lion King, that's for everybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think that in my mind, I try to keep my imagination rather, completely open. No bars, no rules, no regulations. That's my opportunity to do whatever the heck I want to do, because nobody can control my thoughts but me. So I let them run free. And then when I come up with a crazy idea, then I present it and I say, okay, how can we firm it up, add some meat to it, some muscle and whatever. So I hope that answers the question.
Man, that more than answers the question. I like that though, because it like you said, it allows you the opportunity to be free.
Right.
And you know, a lot of what we do is creativity.
Right.
Especially with, you know, business in general and trying to figure out how to separate yourself from the next.
Right.
A lot of that has to do with creativity and figuring out ways and,
right.
you know, trying to figure out what's outside of that standard box that everybody says, you know, hey,
right.
think like an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like that, man.
When you do that, I mean, you can do it because you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you're literally putting shackles on your creativity. Because your creativity, the whole point of it being creative is because you're able to create something. I mean, God created. That was the first thing he did, you know, according to scripture. Like, God, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And that really translates as he created something. Something didn't exist and then it did. Right? And so it's just like an idea or a thought. At some point, it's nothing. It's just infinite space, right? And then you say, oh, I have an idea for this. And then you speak it, you think it through, right? But first, the idea has to come. You know what I mean? And then when the idea comes, then you think about the process of how to grow it and mature it and how to make it adaptable for your audience or whatever.
You know, what would you say are some challenges? And you know, challenges don't necessarily have to be specific to your industry. Mm-hmm. They can be maybe just a business challenge that you had in general. But what's some challenges that you've had, and maybe a way that you were able to overcome something?
You know, something that I feel like everybody deals with, anybody who's starting a business, especially creatives, is insecurity. I feel like that's a challenge that we all deal with. I feel like it's something that we kind of never, you know, stop dealing with. You know, we just learn how to manage it better. We learn how to get over it, get through it. It doesn't bring us down as much as in the beginning. And I would say that's a challenge because a lot of times, man, we allow our insecurity to keep us from pushing forward. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we say it all the time, but it's true. We are our own worst critic. Before anyone else can criticize us, and I'm talking about, and when I say critic, I am not talking about constructive. I'm talking about the negative stuff.
Yeah.
We will kill our stuff before anyone else gets a chance to. Because we don't think it's good enough. We don't think we're talented enough. We don't think we're educated enough or smart enough. Or we don't feel like, you know, we're worthy to do something great, right? Or our background, whatever the case is, you know. But I would say that one of the struggles that I still deal with, right, is insecurity and not allowing that insecurity to dictate my future and my decisions. It's a big thing, man. I'm glad you said that. I'm very glad you said that because that's something that I deal with. You know what I'm saying? Working on different projects and it's like, man, nah, that's not good enough. Or I'll get done with a shoot for something and I'm like, nah, that footage was trash. I haven't even looked at the footage yet. And here's the thing. The crazy thing is, insecurity will cause you to assume what everyone else thinks of your work before they've even seen it. Whether it's, again, that's, you know, whether it's photography, video, whatever, or even just a business.
Yeah.
Like, you're already judging your stuff through the eyes and the lens of other people before they've even had an opportunity to see it and appreciate it.
Man, and that's true because you get ahead of yourself. You get so far ahead of yourself thinking, oh, well, they may not like it. So
you won't even try.
And yeah.
Or you be like, man, this is a dumb idea. Like, ain't nobody gonna, you know. And then you don't do it, and then somebody else does it. And a year later, you're like, man, I had that idea, you know? But that person, I guarantee you they had the same insecurity.
Yeah.
But I bet you they had the tenacity and the drive and the boldness to say, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And if it fails, it fails.
And that's another key right there. If it fails, it fails, you know?
Right.
Because I know even for myself in different ventures, you know, I've been just nervous to take that leap.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to realize that, you know, those failures get you closer.
Mm-hmm.
For me, even, I've realized that the failures got me closer because it made me learn what not to do.
Right.
So all those what not to do's, once we got to like time 7, 8, 9, 10, and it was like, hey, well by time 10, I got a lot of what not to do's.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit easier.
Isn't that what Thomas Edison did? Before the light bulb, like he was like, I just found out 1,000 ways not to create a light bulb. You know what I mean? It's persistence is really the key. Consistency and persistence, and being able to learn from mistakes. You know what I mean? And knowing that mistakes are inevitable. It's going to happen.
And I appreciate you saying that you still go through that now. You know, you said 2006 was when you kicked off. Well, here we are, 2019. You know, you're getting nominated for awards and these types of things, and you still have that thing now where that's something you have to manage and deal with accordingly. So that just goes to show that that's not just for someone just starting. That's something that will be continual, that you have to learn how to manage and balance. You know, and I think one thing that's good for that is having those people that you're close to that critique things for you or look over things for you, and you go through that stuff with, because you have your creative idea, and then sometimes you have to, hey, you know, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's, you know, maybe it's one of your kids, like, hey, come look at this real quick. So I think that kind of helps sometimes too, because you get somebody else's opinion for real. You don't have to keep guessing. Because when you're guessing in your mind, sometimes you know, it can take you all the way left.
But here, there's a flip side to that too, though.
Okay.
So the flip side is, yes, you have to be careful on the negative criticism, but then you also have to be careful of the biased praise.
True.
Right?
Very true.
I know, because there's sometimes where you like, that's not my strong suit, right? Being positive doesn't mean you ignore the fact that that's something is just not your niche, is not your thing, and you're like, well, no, I'm not gonna be negative. Like, no, you're not a football player. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to the NBA. Like, you're 38. You're not athletic. But you can be positive all you want to, but you're not going to the NBA, right? And so, but what happens is your mama's your biggest fan, and she gonna be like, baby, you can do anything you want to do. And she gonna quote scripture, and she gonna say stuff like, you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. And no matter what your mama tell you, you're not going to the NBA. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to be careful about, you know, the negative criticism, but also the biased praise, because the biased praise will cause us to do stuff that we should have let go a long time ago.
That indeed.
Yeah.
And you know, we see it all the time with people with different ventures, because somebody's in that corner pumping them up, and it's like, well, bro, you're not good. You've been doing this for like 10 years.
It's time to move.
It's time to find something else.
Because you're spending all that. You spend 10 years on something that you're not even gaining ground on, and you just lost 10 years worth of investing into something that was supposed to be a part of your destiny, a part of your future, and it wasn't going to take you half that time to get, you know, to get going and get it great. But because our attention was diverted to something that was not able to produce in our lives, and was never meant to produce something in our lives, now we have 10 years of wasted time. Now, it's a lesson, but it's a lesson that could have been avoided. You know?
Like those 40 years.
Like 40 years.
Like those 40 years wandering in the desert.
Walking in the desert. But they was like, God was like, nope, y'all not ready yet. That's good though. That's good though. So I mean, that balance between the unnecessary negativity that we put on ourselves and the biased praise that we get from our loved ones. You know, that's definitely a balance in there that you got to find that middle ground. You have to find the balance and understand and be able to process, and ultimately understand, like, at the end of the day, it's still your decision, and you have to calculate, right? Because in business, of all kinds of business, there's a level of problem solving that has to happen, and that's one of those things. You have to think like, okay, you know, do I need to move forward with this? Is this something that, you know, is beneficial? You know, yes, it's valuable and it holds value, but am I the one that's supposed to put this forth? You know, maybe this is somebody else's gift and I'm just adopting it, trying to make it mine, and it's not mine, and I'm meant to go over here and do this, whatever that is, you know what I mean? And so it's having that skill to problem solve and have that critical thinking skill to say, this is not my thing. I really want to do it, but it's not my thing.
And that's a good thing. Critical thinking is definitely necessary. And you know, as we come to a close today, speaking on critical thinking, I just want to ask, you know, what's one of the books in your catalog or something that you're reading right now? Because you know, one of my guests said readers are leaders.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the best way to describe it. So what's something you're reading right now that we can share with the people?
So there's a book right now called Atomic Habit by James Clear. And man, New York Times bestseller. But it's one of the best books on habits. And so, you know, in a nutshell, I'm not going to say too much because I want people to go buy it and go read it. But basically it talks about everything in your life that you've accomplished or have not accomplished, where you are, wherever in life is a result of habits. Now, these habits can be intentional habits that you develop on purpose, and some of them are habits that were just accrued throughout life because you didn't institute good habits. So everybody lives by habit, right? Everybody does. The only thing is, some of us are living by intentional habits, and some of us are living by habits that we have just blossomed and grown into by the lack of instituting habits. And so, for example, you know, something as simple as biting your fingernails is a habit. You know, but you haven't instituted the habit of not biting your fingernails, or putting some kind of system into place that says, when I feel the urge to bite my fingernails, this is what I'm going to do, right? That's an intentional habit. You can't fall into success, right? You don't find your way into accidental good habits. You know what I mean? There's something that you practice over time. And so I think it's a great book. I feel like it's not just a one-time read. I feel like it's a manual, honestly. It's something that you will always refer to because habits make up our lives, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And you said that's The Atomic Habit by James Clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, you know, we'll definitely put that book up so everybody can take a look at that.
Yeah.
Again, we want to thank Don for coming to the show.
Yeah.
ToneSetterTV, another episode in the books with Mr. Don Hopkins of the Kedo Co. Don, appreciate you again.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hopefully we can, you know, work together in the future. I can do some behind the scenes work for you guys.
Let's do it.
Another episode of ToneSetterTV in the books. Again, I'm Christopher, not Chris. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Hope you guys were able to learn. Peace.
Peace.
My name is LaJuana Chambers Lawson. I am the owner and principal consultant of Tacit Growth Strategy. And I just wanted to say that it was an amazing, incredible experience, and I can't wait to see the finished product.
Hey, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of ToneSetterTV. We hope there is a learning moment in this episode for each and every one of you.
If you are an entrepreneur or are interested in being a part of ToneSetterTV, please email us at tonesetterent@gmail.com. Also, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with our entrepreneurs. And remember, to be a tone setter, you have to figure out a way to set the tone.